Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to another live with Hanifa Nayela. It is me, Hanifa Nayela. Listen, can you guys hear me? I hope I'm loud enough. All right. First of all, let me get some things in order over here. Uh, as soon as I came on the air, of course, the phone starts to ring. That's the devil. That's the devil. But yes, so I was just trying to get myself situated. There were a few things that I wanted to have typed out, but because it's kind of like personal, like how can I say, I still haven't figured out what to call Mondays, but Mondays is more like I said, things that are personal to my journey. I really didn't want to do it almost like a like a presentation, right? I like to try to flow on Mondays because it's about me. It's my story. It's really easy for me, right? So I didn't need all of that. However, I did need some assistance to really summarize some things. And so I'll probably be reading from two books today, not long reads, but just like some snippets of certain two books actually that I'm going to refer to that really brings everything full circle. Sort of what I'm going to be talking about today. I hope you guys are feeling well. I am okay. I will give myself about a 7 today, not a full 10, not a full 10, but a 7. But I pushed through and I am here because this conversation is important. It's important. So the first thing I'm gonna do is have some housekeeping. I'm not gonna be here long today. I'm gonna try not to be here long today. Try. You guys pray for me. Okay, so let me do some housekeeping real quickly and just let you guys know. If you are new and you are just coming in or you're watching this on the replay, please make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the like button as well. If it's content that you like, make sure you share as well. Don't be stingy. Share the information, share the love. And if you need to follow me on any social media platform, you can find me on Instagram at the real Hanifa Nayela. That is my Instagram handle. And if for whatever reason today is Monday, it's the top of the week, and you might be feeling generous, and so you don't have to ask. You will see my Cash App at the bottom of the screen. That I will not bring it up again. So I try to leave it there. Feel free to drop a donation. I actually happen to like, I don't have the little what do you call those things? Buy me a smoothie type thing. I don't have that, but I'm just letting y'all know right now. I do like a good chai latte with soy milk and an extra pump of chai. Just letting y'all know. You know what I'm saying? It's about $5. About $6. Okay. Just putting that out there. But yes. That's about it. And then also too, I am gonna put my warning out because I know Mondays is personal to me. However, it may be triggering to others, right? Because sometimes people's stories may not align with the way that we live our lives, and we might find it to be unbelievable. Oh my god, and it may not sit well with you. So before we get in our feelings and you mark me as your up, just let me let you know right here, please view at your discretion, because I will not change my story for your convenience. I just want to put that out there. All right, so now that we've gotten that out the way, let's see who is in the house as usual. So I know Quantum passed through. Quantum added her 2 cent already. She'll probably swing back through again. She pretty much speaking to the topic, saying they are the head of themselves, talking about the men. And if they can't lead themselves, they will fail leading anyone else. So that's her take already. And I hope sis come back around to kind of expound on that. I appreciate your input, Quantum. If you are listening, I appreciate you, sis, for always showing your support and your love. It does not go unnoticed. Hey, Inya. She says, hey, sis, looking forward to this conversation. Inya, I am hoping that you are going to behave yourself today. I already see you put the disclaimer out, and I just want to let you know, sis, I appreciate you. Okay. Okay. If no one told you that today, I'm telling you, I appreciate you. Okay. But hey, Inya, appreciate you for being here as usual, sis. Thank you for the consistent, continual support. I appreciate you very, very much. She says, disclaimer, this topic may be triggering for some, so please view at your own discretion. Also, if you must punch the air, feel free to do so. Enya is already starting. She says, you have permission to punch the air, guys. I highly doubt it's going to be that triggering. Well, we'll see. Okay. All right. Who else we have in the house? We have Arshawn. Hey, everyone. Hey, Arshawn. I wonder if you are driving on your way home right now. I don't know. I feel like around this time, you are always on the road. So I'm going to assume that you are. I am going to just say safe travel. Keep your eye on the road. And please come in when you can. Okay. Appreciate your support, Ashan. I really do. And my good sis, my aunt. Hey, my aunt. She says, peace, sis. Okay. Good, 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 good. Good to see you, my aunt. Thanks for the support as usual. Wally, why you peeping? Who you looking for? Hey, Wally, thanks for passing through. I enjoyed your input on the last stream and I am grateful for your presence. Thank you for being here, sir. Let's see. We have Just Do It. He says over here working out, just popping in to show love. Peace and love, Hanifa Naila and the rest of the chat. Peace to you, Mr. Do It. And thanks for always passing through, man. I appreciate it. Hey, E Black. How are you, E Black? Thanks for passing through and showing some love. Long time, long time, long time. But I am glad you are here showing some love. I appreciate you, sir, as usual. Oh, hey, Lucky Marie. Hey, sis. Thanks for passing through. Thanks for passing through and always showing me some love with those clovers. I appreciate it very, very much. Chef. Hey, Chef. Chef says, peace, love, and light to you, honey. For peace and love and light and health and wellness to you, Mr. Chef Shapino. I appreciate you. You are in my thoughts. Speedy recovery to you. I hope all is well. Oh, shoot. My big sis is here. Hey, sis. As usual. Hey, sis. Good to see you. I am here. And thanks for being here with me and always supporting me. I love you. And who else do we have? Miss Bree. Hey, Bree. Bree say I'm here and I have my popcorn ready. Oh, boy. Guys, this is going to be a real mellow one. I'm so serious. But I felt like, I don't want to tell you guys why. Let me tell you why I ended up doing this shortly. But I hope I got everyone thus far. And I'm hoping that no one tries to call me while I'm on. But okay, so let me tell you why I decided to do this one. Okay, so I did a video last Monday talking about why I'm no longer a Christian. And of course, I got some pushback in my comments. I am fine with pushback. I stopped being a Christian a very long time ago, so I don't have any sore spots around it. There isn't anything that anyone can say to kind of like trigger me to reconsider, I guess. I hope. Yeah, I don't think so. It's been a while. Like I was a Christian all of my 20s. So that that stage of my life was a much needed stage for that time of my life. The things that I've learned was very necessary. Being under the tutelage of Christianity was necessary too for my 20s. Like I said in my video, it saved my life and it kept me from a lot of things. So there is much appreciation to the Christian religion for that, right? And I know that I had to pass through that because there's a lot of things that I needed to learn. And in retrospect, I see it. So I don't go as hard as I probably used to go when I first left Christianity on Christians. I just don't. It's just not it's not worth the energy, because I do understand that when we are heavily committed to a certain paradigm and a way of thinking and belief, it's very difficult for people to sway us. I really believe that we have to depend on seeds that are planted to do their work, to do, just do what they do. I have to trust in that. So I don't try to convince Christians that they're wrong. I just don't, because I've been there and you could not tell me ish when I was there. So for me, I'm open to having conversations with them. I'm open to evolving the religious and spiritual conversation with Christians, but I'm not willing to go back and forth around what scripture means and the Hebrew interpretation and the Latin texts and what this word had meant back then. I'm very much disinterested in that. Absolutely disinterested. So because I did that video, I really began to think about so many different things that I literally let go of because I let go of Christianity. And today, actually, I didn't realize it, but this particular topic is one of those things, right? Um, and so I wanted to talk about it because it's very much connected to me not being a Christian anymore and other things. And I know, oh boy, I know that there are people who, so some of you guys may not know this about me. I was married before. I am currently married as well. And I never had an issue with this particular thing in my relationships. Now, there were some other immaturities that I had, but this wasn't ever an issue. So I want to make that clear, because I think what happens to a lot of us who live within this paradigm, we cannot see relationships functioning in a healthy way outside of this, outside of the superiority of the man, outside of the man being the head and the dominating the relationship. We do not think that relationships can exist in a healthy way outside of that dynamic. And I'm telling you that that is not true. I used to think like that. I do not anymore. And so today, me personally, wait, I think I see someone. I want to make sure he knows that I see him. Hey, oh, actually, it's her. Mrs. She said, good day, beautiful Hanifa. Hey, sis. Thanks for coming through. Appreciate your presence the last live as well. And so yes, I just wanted to delve into this because there's a lot of conversation, or have been a lot of conversation, 2022 conversation, heavy around submission, which is very much rooted in this. The submission conversations that we're having online, this is the foundation of it. The man being the head is at the root of it. Okay. This is why it's always been difficult for me to have the conversation. And I've said, and I meant no offense, and I still don't, but the conversation is beneath me. I don't like having submission conversations because they are beneath me. And when I say beneath me, I mean beneath my line of thinking. I mean that I have evolved so past that already that having the conversation is just ridiculous for me, right? Because I also know that you can exist outside of that paradigm with the person that you're intimate with and still have a good, healthy, respectful, whole relationship. I know that. So when I hear the conversations, I tend not to kind of like partake in them, because it's just, I tend to be the minority. Let me just put that in those conversations. I already know I'm going to be the minority. So I don't even like to engage in them. But if I am, and if I have to, I will. Right. And so that's kind of why, I wanted to have this conversation. So, like I said, there were two things that I wanted to kind of like, I didn't want to do a slide. So I'm actually just going to read them out. But let me start off by saying this, my thoughts. Okay. Are men leaders? Do I think that men are leaders? Absolutely. Do I think that women are leaders? Absolutely. Does one negate the other? Absolutely not. That's my thinking in a nutshell. That's my thinking in a nutshell, right? I think that men have certain things that they do better, and we're gonna get into all of that. And I think that women do, right? I think that has to do with biology. I think it has to do with our makeup, right? And this is why I believe that we have different functions, right? But it doesn't mean that we're valued differently for those functions. And I'll talk about that as well. And I'm going to use the body analogy for this because I think sometimes we are thinking about these things so literal and we're so heavily uh, committed to whatever our programming is that we're not willing. So analogies help to kind of like build a picture. So I'm going to use the body analogy to speak to that. And then another one too, my friend and I was talking and I just thought about it while in the conversation with her. So I'm going to speak on that as well. So I just want to start off like that. I do think that men are leaders. And I do think that women are leaders. I do not think that the man is the head of the woman, nor do I think that the woman is the head of the man. Okay, so let's get into why that is. So let me just say, when I left Christianity, so I'm going to lead up to this. When I left Christianity, I left there still thinking that men are the head of women. But then I began to study. Okay. And I just want to repeat this for those of you guys that did not hear it before. Wait, I think I see Red Lipstick came in. Hey, Red Lipstick. Thanks for passing through, sis, and showing some support. Good to see you. What was I saying? Okay. So when I left Christianity, I still left Christianity really believing that men are the head of women. I really did. I did. I still felt that way. I felt that way through my 30s, probably. I felt that way in my previous marriage. Let me see. Even though there were no conversations to be had around it, right? We were both Christians at the time, so there was no conversations to be had about. My ex-husband wasn't flexing. Like, I'm the head, I make the decisions. And let me just say this: one of the things that I'm gonna say, a lot of people who've been married for quite some time, they know, like, in practice what I believe in, they know it to be a fact. Now, in theory, when they're out here talking about, I think some of these men are just flexing. I'm talking about the ones that are married. I think they're really just flexing because most marriages that I know and that I've observed, they have a very egalitarian way function to them. I'm telling you guys, people are out here talking. And most people would tell you who've been married for a length of time, most, not all, most though. You will always, if you watch and you observe them, they will tell you that, marriage is like, it fluctuates. Okay. So today it might be, a wife might be like, I stayed home with the kids and he, did this. And then that dynamic changes because maybe the children got older. So now the children are in grade school. So now she says, yeah. And then I started working at this time, like it fluctuates. And then another time she might be like, yeah. And then he was out of work and then I had to carry the household. Like it's it is not that black and white, guys. It is not. And this is why you guys need to stop listening to these single men who are harping on the fact that I'm the head and you beneath me and men are superior to, like, stop. Just don't. Talk to people who have been married for a length of time. Observe them. And I'm telling you, you are going to see this egalitarian function in their marriages for the most part. For the most part. Because marriage is like, and I'm not saying all, because there are women who have been housewives their whole life. And outside of just being a housewife, you don't have to be a housewife to see the man as your head. She could be working and still say, that's my head, right? That means that he makes all, like, the ultimate decisions come down to him. That's really what that means for the most part. Because most of the time people are like, well, and this is where, people are just trying to find something where it's like, well, What if it's a decision and y'all can't agree on it? And like somebody has to make the what is it? Somebody has to make the decision. Yes. Yes, and we're going to talk about that too. Somebody has to make the decision. No, 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 no. The decision must be made. That's when you get down to this is beyond me being right or wrong. This is about what's best for the whole. The whole being, if you don't have children, you and that individual. The whole being, if you have children, the entire family. This is where feelings gets puts aside, everything, just the fact that you want to be right, or it feels better this way. All of that has to go out the window for the for what's best for the whole. That's where that comes in. So you have two individuals that love each other, right, enough to put their egos aside and say, even though I feel strongly about my stance and about this position, I am willing to set aside the way that I think it should go for what's best for everyone. I'm gonna give you guys an example because examples are good. So let me give you. So when I had separated, right? This is my ex-husband and I. And there's so many examples in my co-parenting situation because I still function with this. This still shows up when you're co-parenting. I just want to put that out there, okay? So one time we were making a decision about my son who is now 10. He was like 5. His dad and I was trying to make a decision. There was a school, a pre-K that his dad really wanted him to go to, like really wanted him. And I was like, nah, that's like too much money. Okay. And because now we're splitting because we're co-parenting, we're no longer married. And so I was like, if I get like that, because he made more money than me and everything. And I was like, nah, you must got it like that. I ain't got like that. No, whatever. You better send him to this one. And plus it was closer. And so I was arguing that. And hey, Sherelle, good to see you, sis. I hope all is well. You are in my thoughts, you and your family. I hope everything is okay. Well, it's not okay, but I'm sending much you know, positive energy towards you guys and consolation, actually. So, hi, Sherelle. Thanks for passing through. Um, okay, so yeah, so let me finish this story. So it was a back and forth, yeah. Yeah, I cried and everything. Like I felt strongly about this. I did not want him to go to that school. I felt very strongly, and his dad ended up giving me making a proposition, right? And he was like, I am telling you that I think that this is a better school to put him in. Okay. And so, and I agreed. I didn't disagree with that. My financial situation just wasn't allowing me to kind of like meet the brother halfway. So he was like, I'm telling you it's the best school. And because I feel so strongly about it, here's what I'm willing to do. I am willing, instead of doing 50-50, I'm willing to do, I think it was like he went to like 70-30 or something like that. So what he was willing to do is pay most of the tuition for the school. Not all, but most of it, because he felt that strongly about sending our son to that school. So I had to step back and say, okay, I still don't feel the same way. But the fact that you're willing to do that, then he said, and also come to the school, check it out. So I went, watched all of that. He got the paperwork. I mean, the man had a whole proposal. Okay. You know what I had to do? I had to step away. I had to fall back. I had to fall back because at the end of the day, it's not about me and my gas and how I feel. It became about this man has watched this school. It was a school connected to where he worked. And he's willing to pay more into it, right? And I trust him, by the way. I trust his judgment because that is his son. And I stepped back and I just kind of went with it. I went and I took that ride for a whole year, y'all. Okay. It was a ride. I was annoyed, but I did it. Okay. So I stepped back out of the way and I kind of like had to like let that happen. That is what I mean, where you have to The entire unit has to be more important than your individual self, right? Now, if it's not, what's going to happen is we're going to have conversations about, oh, well, when it comes down to something that you don't agree with, only people who cannot see people walking in unity ask questions like that. Like, I'm just like, then you sit. They're like, well, if it's an emergency, then you make an emergency. Like you make an emergency call. Like somebody call it, and then deal with the consequences later. It is not that deep. We try to make these things deep just so that we can hold on to whatever narrative and whatever paradigm we're fully committed to. These things are not that difficult. What I'm finding is that a lot of times the struggles that we're having in these dynamics is because you have two broken individuals trying to do relationship. That's where a lot of our issues are coming from. So anyway, I wanted to use, that's just one example. There's so many others, especially like in my co-parenting dynamic and also in my current marriage. Like when there's things that come up with my son, he's in the double digits now, I have to go to my husband because I was never a boy. And he's able to say to me, no, this is what's going on. This is the phase that he's in right now. And he's able to kind of bring me full circle because y'all know women, like, we'll overthink some stuff. We'll overthink some stuff. We'll think ourselves in a frenzy, especially over our children. And I really think that that's where the logic of a man comes in, right? And he comes in and he kind of like calms our chaos. He brings order to our chaos, right? And so acknowledging that and knowing that that's kind of what men bring, like I'm able to honor that in men because I know that I've seen it play out in my life over and over and over again. Okay. Especially when it comes to the little ones, like we do not think straight, ladies. We just do not. Okay. So here am I thinking. So as I said, I left Christianity and then I started to study a lot of my history. I've been studying like my history as a black woman since I was maybe 12, 13 years old. I had already started to really delve into like black literature, pan-Africanism, like all of that. So I had already started that journey. So then I entered into the church, and it wasn't difficult for me to enter church, like I told you guys, because if anyone know anything about Rastas, that's kind of what they follow. They follow the Bible. So I was already reading the Bible before I got into church, right? So the man as the head thing was already kind of like in me. And then so when I got out, I continued my studies. So my studies evolved. Let me just put it that way. And I found myself, first of all, recognizing that there is no separation between men and women. And by the way, it's not just men and women. It's between us and nature and a whole bunch of other stuff, a bunch of illusions that we get caught up in, right? That separation thing in a lot of areas, in a lot of capacities in a lot of ways that we think we're separate is really just an illusion, okay? So there is no separation to me between men and women. Okay, we see different as separate, and that is not automatically true. Because you look different, because you show up different, because you're built different, therefore, you and I, we can never have unity. We can never be one, right? There's no unity between us because we function differently. There's no separation between men and women. So I want to bring up something that I brought up before, complementarity versus equality. I am not about equality. I am not about equality. Equality says I want to be able to function like you. I want to be able to show up like you. I want to be able to do what you do. That's what equality is. I don't believe in that because I know it's baloney. I believe that there's just certain functions, just the anatomy of women and men are different for a reason. Okay? So this idea of I want to function in the same way that you do while maintaining my anatomy or my biology or or my nature is impossible. It's just impossible. So no, there's complementarity and then there's equality. So I don't necessarily believe in equality. I do believe in complementarity. Okay. I think complementarity does take place with two people who are like minded, who are on the same page, who are on the same frequency, who are working towards the same goal. Complementarity does not necessarily take place because you want someone, this is a male, you're a female, woman, man. No. Two people coming together. Complementarity says, equality says, I want your function. I want to be able to function like you. Complementarity says, where you cannot function, I will. And where I do not function, you will. That is the difference. I hope I'm clear on that. Okay? It literally says, where you fall short, I stand tall, and where I fall short, you stand tall. That is what complementarity is. It is not competition. It is not a fight for equality. Those are two different things. So remember that complementarity versus equality, two very different things. Okay, so let me check real quick. I see. Hey, sis. Let me make sure I make sure I say hi to everyone that's coming in. Nice to see you. Don't be putting them little eyes up in there. Hey, OG Pershi. She says greetings and salutations. Greetings and salutations to you. I think I saw Sir Hale somewhere in here. Hey, Sir Hale. Good to see you, sir. Thanks for always passing through and showing me some love and support. I appreciate it. And that Sherelle is in the chat. Sherelle, I hope you are, if you're on the road, you keeping your eyes on the road. I don't think you are though, but okay. Okay. So I hope I'm clear on that. So there's a difference. I just want to clear that up because when I talk about man not being the head, people automatically jump to, oh, so you think we're equal, right? And not in the way that you think, or people automatically jump to, you must be a feminist, right? And so I just want to clear that up. Okay, I do not believe in equality necessarily. I believe in complementarity. I do believe that 50-50 is an illusion. There is no such thing as 50-50. It's almost impossible. Not when you're talking about function, because what happens when we do that is we're trying to measure function. We're trying to say, because I do this in this capacity, I am more valued than you. And in order to measure up to that, you have to bring something that equates to that. 50-50 is an illusion. Like, for example, if a woman and a man go 50-50 and bills, that's still an illusion, because what happens is, and anyone that has children know this, if you are working and he is working and you guys are going half on the bill, somewhere along the way, you are going to outdo him in contribution in the household. How do I know that? Because the children cling to us. I have a toddler right now. I cannot convince him to go hang out with his dad. He would tell me no. He would find his way back to me, and he was breastfed up until what? Recently, he's 3 now. He was breastfed up until maybe 2.5 years, almost 3, until he was almost 3. Very attached. So there can be no real 50-50, because after I get home from working and I contribute to my half of the household, right? I still have to pick up taking care of the children, especially the little ones. There's no way we can get around that, ladies. There's no way around it. I tried. Trust me. I tried. Oh, shush, Taki. My sister here clowning me, saying that my son was breastfed up until 3. Because my family was like, she's still breastfeeding him? Just leave me alone. Anyway. Yeah. So that is what we have, like that 50-50 thing. When I hear people talk about it, like I contribute half to the household, it's at some point somebody is going to always do more, and oftentimes when it comes to the children, and this is no shade to the men, it ends up being the woman, right? And then if we believe in like assign roles as far as like domestication and all of these other things, then on top of that you have to add on that she's working, she's contributing to the bills 50-50 with you, and then she's also cleaning, and then she's also caring for the kids. So the idea of 50-50 just goes, it doesn't make sense to me. It just doesn't. I don't even get into it. It's an illusion. That discussion is just insane to me, right? So one a lady that I respect very much, Marimba Annie, she calls it oppositional unity, and it's not oppositional like opposite, but with an a, oppositional unity. And I like that term because it's really, oppositional unity is just saying that you have two things that are very different in nature but cannot function or exist without each other. That is what she calls oppositional unity. That is what I believe in. Okay? That is what I believe in. That's why I say complementarity. I believe that women need men as much as men need women. We are having conversations around this, literally, where you women would say, well, what else do we need men for? Oh, do we not want to reproduce? And I know everyone don't want to have children, but for the most part, it's in our makeup as human beings to want to replenish, to want to reproduce after ourselves. That's a part of us. So when you say that I don't need men, that's essentially what you're saying, that I don't need to reproduce I don't need to replenish. I don't need to reproduce after myself. The earth could die off after I die off for all I care. That's essentially what you're saying. When you say that you don't need women, because I've heard men say this in this space, you're saying the same thing as well. That is anti-nature. Literally, it is anti-nature. And I'm going to get into all of that as well in a second, okay? But anyway, so the idea of oppositional unity is kind of one that I embrace, because it's literally saying that, yes, we are different, but we cannot fully exist and function in our full capacity outside of each other. It's something that men, the presence of men, bring out of women. It's something that the presence of women bring out of men, that both are unable to bring out on their own. The energy that a woman brings draws out a certain type of energy from a man. You hear men say this all the time, especially in this space. Everything that men do, for the most part, is for who? For women. I've heard even men say, like, we go out, we work hard, we build for you guys, for you ladies. We do that for you. It's not just for us. So when you have the conversations and say, we don't need you guys, and you try to reduce us, right, to just simple, I don't know, breathing machines, it's an insult, not just to us, it's an insult to nature. Same thing with women. When you're like, well, if you provide and protect, or I'll just buy a gun to protect myself and I could provide for myself anyway, you've reduced men to utilities. And there's so much more than that. Okay? All right. So the separation, I think, is where the problem began for me, when I started to see, like, wow, why are we separating each other, right? And then also to the dominance thing, the idea that men are superior to women. I mean, men bring up things like, look at the way we build muscles and all of these types of things, and I'm going to talk about that in a minute. But I started to see, and the layers begin to kind of fall off. And I was telling a friend today, it's only when I was preparing to talk about this that I actually realize how I deal with men, how I perceive men, how I approach men, how I engage with men. The way that how I hold men in such high esteem is because I don't believe that they are superior to me. I don't believe that they are my head. And I know some of y'all are like, well, how? That's because it allows me to humanize them. When we come from that patriarchal, and I said this the last time, the system of patriarchy that we currently live under, because it is a political social system, okay? And it's a political and social system that insists that males are inherently dominating, and they're superior not just to us, but to everything. And that everything else is deemed weak, especially women. And somehow they're endowed by the Creator with the right to rule over those things that are weak, and that includes nature. Right? But we don't understand the damage that that way of thinking does to men. That is why there is no space for men's pain. That is why women treat men as utilities. That is why men cannot struggle and they cannot have weak moments. And I realized once I began to let that go, I actually began to rehumanize men in my mind. So that's why whenever y'all are over here, you're going to always hear me go in on the sisters and you're going to hear me go in on the brothers. You will never hear me call a man a B or try to emasculate a man. You're not going to hear me emasculate a man because he's having a moment of what we will call weakness. Because he's crying, because he's in pain, because he's hurting, because he's struggling, because he's down on his luck. Patriarchy imprisons men. And the issue a lot of our men are having is that they don't see it because they actually are focused on the little crumbs of benefits that they get from it. So they push that idea of we are superior, we are in charge, and you guys must submit to us, not just you, but everything else that's smaller and weaker. I was asking a friend the other day talking about this very thing. I thought of a bee. And I said, you see a bee and a bee is coming at you. A bee is very small, by the way, and a bee is coming at you and it's trying to like sting you, right? So, we could take most of us, because we're, human beings, we could take a bee, a swatter and swat the bee and hurt the bee, right? Or we could look at something, something smaller, but I'm going to use the bee as an example for a reason. I said, do we understand that, yes, we might look at a bee, and because we are larger than a bee and we find ourselves as producing and having more to contribute to society than a bee, just simply because of the bee's size, by the way, okay, we are going to deem the bee weaker and therefore less valuable. Do you understand that if the bees are if the bees are to disappear tomorrow, we will starve within a year? Are we aware of that? So even though you think yourself superior to the bee, you cannot live without the bee. And yet the bee is this little insignificant thing. But if the bee is to disappear tomorrow, you will not last a year. That's just a small example of smaller in size does not mean less valuable. We have to think about where this idea of smaller and weaker means that I have the right, or I'm endowed with the right to dominate that thing. Why do we treat nature the way we do? This idea that because someone has less resources than that means that I am superior to them. Because you have less muscles as a woman, nature is telling you, duh, that I'm supposed to dominate you. Duh, that's why I got the big muscles. I said to my friend, maybe you got the muscles because you are supposed to protect. Maybe that's why. Not because you are superior, not because you are supposed to dominate, but maybe because it is for you to protect. The CEO, I was telling my husband, the CEO, it's like the CEO saying it's like someone saying, because the security guard protects the building, he's greater than the CEO who owns the building. Y'all see how crazy that sounds? Y'all see how crazy that sounds? And it's so funny because what do you call it? The people who are running this world are not the gym buffs with the biggest muscles. They're not. They're not. They're not. They're not the hyper masculine alpha males that we keep talking about. They're not. But they hold the power. So we really have to rethink how we are approaching each other based on how we're built, what we make, how we show up, the level of education we have. That's what's happening right now with a lot of women. You always hear them quote that stat. Black women are the most educated. There's a reason why they keep quoting that stat. There's a reason why. It's a reason why men keep talking about they out earn women and they keep quoting those stats. I don't see us that way. I don't see men and women that way. I don't see men and women at odds or in competition with each other. I don't necessarily see that one needs to dominate the other in order for them to work together. I just don't. So I just brought up something. So I'm going to read something real quick because I felt like this, this kind of summed it up for me. So Sheikh Anta Diop, he is a Senegalese. I think he's from Senegal. Let me make sure. Yeah, he's a Senegalese anthropologist, right? So he's a historian, he's an anthropologist. Let me see. He's a physicist, I think. And he pretty much studies human origins from an Afrocentric foundation. So I do read a lot of his books, but I mean, I have a few of his books, but I do like his work, right? So one of the things that he says in here, and this again is along the line of thinking that I have. So he says in here, okay, so let me go back. Let me preface it by saying this. In my studies, why I also let go of this idea that men are the head of women. Okay, in my studies, one of the things that I realized is that a lot of societies, even in the Bible, a lot of societies were very goddess focused. When you talk about worship and stuff, like that concept of God being he came much, much later. Okay. And if you don't believe me, go back, read your Old Testament. You think that they were dismantling and destroying altars. Who do you think most of those altars were to? They were two goddesses, right? I think of the what do you call it, Dinah of Ephesus in the book of Acts. Like, these are things that's coming to my mind. So once I started to read those things and understand that, people actually acknowledge goddesses way before God was actually called he, right? And then once I started to study and I go back now in my Bible and I was looking at just some things, because once your lens change, you read the Bible a little differently. And I started to look and I realized that there was a lot of places where the way that God was being described was in a very feminine way, but they kind of still had he in there, like God giving birth. And I'm like, what? And still using the he pronoun in, like, how? No. Right? But I found out in my studies that a lot of the translations, they replace the feminine part with like the masculine, because again, the patriarchy is not a Christian thing. I want to make that clear. Like, patriarchy came well before Christianity, and that's why the system of patriarchy was already being established way before Christianity. And that's part of why I always say it was written into the Bible, because people were already functioning in that system that men are in charge. The idea or the story of Adam and Eve coming from Adam's rib, right? That was already at play. Okay. And it's very interesting because when we talk about Eve coming from Adam's rib, people bring that up a lot, and for me, I don't know whose story that is. Okay. But I know whoever's story that is, they totally had an agenda, because anyone, if I go and ask my sons right now, my 3-year-old, my 10-year-old, where do people come from? Everyone was say from a woman, but we have this one story that we hold on to just to drive the point that men are superior to women and women are beneath men, and men are to dominate women. Not dominate. Okay, I might be stretching here. I might be pushing it, right? But men are the head of women. This is where we get this from, because we start from the what do you call it, Eden story. Okay, with Eve coming from Adam's ribs, and we know we ain't never seen that happen again. Y'all just want to go against science just to like hold on to your beliefs, and even if it doesn't make sense, like that story is one of the stories that I'm most embarrassed about. Can I just say that? That's one of the things that I believed in that I'm most embarrassed about. I am so serious. Just the thought of it, I'm just like, how in the world do we not question this? How? But anyway, like I said, I'm gonna read the thing. So in his book, it's called The Cultural Unity of Black Africa, and he says the domains of matriarchy, of patriarchy in classical antiquity. And I highlighted a part in the book. He says matriarchy is not an absolute cynical triumph of woman over men. Let me stop right there. Let me stop right there. Black people in America does not exist under a matriarchy. If anyone understands what matriarchal systems look like, we know that it's not true. We know it's not true. Okay? Also, when I talk about matriarchy, I know what comes to your mind. You think that it's the opposite of patriarchy because patriarchy says men are in charge. Patriarchy says that men are to dominate. Patriarchy says that men are superior to women. So when I say matriarchy, you automatically think that I am saying women are to dominate, women are superior to men, and that is not what I believe in. Okay, so Sheikh Anta Diop speaks a little bit to this. He says matriarchy is not an absolute and cynical triumph of woman over men. He says it is a harmonious dualism and association accepted by both sexes. The better to build a sedentary society where each and everyone could fully develop by following the activity best suited to his physiological nature. A matriarchal regime, far from being imposed on men by circumstances independent of his will, is accepted and defended by him. Okay? He says the hatred of men is foreign to people who live in matriarchal society. The hatred of men is foreign to them, and they possess the consciousness of being, talking about female soldiers, of being soldiers struggling only for the liberation of their country. Right? This is where a lot of people that went to see The Woman King, these are the issues that they're discussing, and I haven't seen it yet. Okay, but when I do, I'll talk about it. So I wanted to bring that up. In other words, he's saying matriarchy is not an absolute and cynical triumph of woman over men. We could stop right there. When people lived in matriarchal societies, it wasn't woman was superior. It really was it just meant matrilineal. First of all, the goddess worship. And if y'all do y'all research, I am telling you guys right now. Okay? Everything started with the matriarch. Okay? Matriarchal societies was just societies where you inherited from your mother and you took on your mother's last name. It just means matrilineal, matrilocal, which means the land and everything else was inherited through the woman. That's it. But women still had their function and men still had their function. Do I believe that men are protectors? Absolutely. I think that nature shows us that. I think that goes without saying. Right? So that's a thing of, but it doesn't mean that because you protect, that which you protect, you are superior to or should dominate. Like that's some Eurocentric other-ish. For real. Okay? So, I talked about okay, so yes, let me move on. So I just want to say this. So me letting go of this idea that men are superior to women or men are the head of women, let me tell you what it has done for me. Okay? Actually, I got one more thing and then I'm going to get to that. Okay? So this right here is it in a nutshell, because we talk a lot about masculinity and femininity in this space and it drives me insane. It does. Because we have a bunch of imbalanced folks out here trying to talk about working together. Okay? So let me read this part in this book. It says, male female, masculine feminine imbalance accounts for the social, political, economic, and religious imbalances in the larger society. The external alienation between man and woman was the reflection of an inner alienation between the masculine and feminine. This inner and outer alienation, which despise feminine multidimensional qualities, especially the feminine intuitive qualities and the female, led to Greeks and Western man's first external conquest, the conquest of woman. The conquest of females by males is the foundation for the attempt by Western males to conquer nature and the cosmos. The Greek conception of alienation, masculine and feminine, and between male and female, was inseparable from their conception of alienation from the cosmos. In fact, the Greek notion of the relationship of males to females was a miniature reflection of their conception of the universe. Western man's inability to live in harmony with nature and the cosmos is directly based on his inability to live in harmony with his masculine and feminine inner qualities. A people who cannot harmonize and balance the differences between masculine and feminine and male and female are a people who are unable to balance their relationship with the ultimate mother, Mother Nature, who is treated by Western man as a passive female who must be tricked, manipulated, and controlled. I have been saying this. The imbalance that we are seeing between men and women is because of the imbalance between the masculine and feminine within ourselves. Men who think that they are meant to dominate women and quiet them, it is because they have chosen to suppress the feminine principle that exists in them. They have no relationship with it. It is something meant to be pushed in the darkness, set aside, to be conquered, even to be killed. So if you treat your feminine energy within yourself like that, that is how you're going to treat nature, and that is how you're going to treat women. And it's the same thing for women. We are seeing the imbalance because we are an imbalanced people. An imbalance for me equates to sickness. So I want to talk about, before I leave, what this has done for me and why I deal with men the way that I do. Letting go of this concept have allowed me to make space in my life for men to show up as human beings. That's it. That's it. To allow men to feel. Because when you subscribe to this patriarchal thing of men are supposed to be this way, right? And they're not supposed to have access to emotions or show any sort of weakness or anything like that, you imprison men. And I keep saying, we're talking about suicide rates among Black men. This is a part of it. They have no outlet. And that's why, for me personally, I don't deal with men like that. Because I'm coming to you, I'm not even looking at you as somebody that's superior to me. I'm not. So it allows me to hold you at in a certain esteem. I respect you because you're a human being. I respect you for your essence, not because you are created to dominate me and you're superior to me. We need each other. And no one has to dominate the other for us to work together. It doesn't have to happen. It doesn't have to happen. Okay, so let me check and see because I saw some people come in. All right, so he says might makes right is a popular European trope. Might makes, yeah, might makes right. Okay, yeah, yeah. You have the guns and the gunpowder, and so that means that you are supposed to go and just pillage and grape and what I'm saying, stamp out these people's cultures, and yeah, because you have the guns. I mean, duh, right? It's weird, and we don't even think about these things. Okay. Hey, Philip. He says, salute, Queen. Sherelle says she's starting her show. Oh, okay, Cheryl. I gotta definitely tap in. I think I'm already subscribed to your channel though. But yes, I will be passing through. Dante. Hey, Dante. Dante say good people. Ray, are you saying that men have a feminine nature inside of us? Okay, so everything in nature has a masculine and feminine expression principle. If there's a masculine expression, there is a female expression in nature. Are we not part of nature? Why do you think that we are excluded from that? So my answer is yes. So when you do a study, Ray, if you were to say, let me study what masculine and feminine principles are, right? And I'm sure you have, because people talk about this all the time. But what it is that we cherry pick what we want to describe both sides, right? But it's so much more. So we know that men are what? Logic, right? So what we don't realize is that grind and compete, and we know that it's considered masculine. We know that because we see it in women, and we don't like it as, not we, y'all don't like it as men, because you're like, ain't no woman, that's unattractive to us because you're coming off like a man. So we do acknowledge. Here's the funny thing. We acknowledge that women are operating from a masculine place, right? For many different reasons that I am not here to discuss today, right? We can acknowledge that. Where does that come from? She has to tap into it. She has to tap into it. These women becoming hard and all of these other things, right? It's because they are trying to function. They're trying to take on the function of men. The masculine principles or masculine energy and the feminine energy is always with us. Okay? When I have to go and, cuddle my children or even breastfeed my son, right? That bonding, I'm in my feminine, right? Boom. If I go out now and I'm walking with my son and something tries to attack my son, okay, there is a level of masculinity that I'm going to have to tap into, believe it or not. It's the same thing with men. And I know it's so funny that men can understand this about women, but they refuse to acknowledge it about themselves because it's like, oh no, there's no feminine in me. Sir, sir. When you have to go and you have to, some men would say, if you meet a man that, I'll give you an example. I'll say the people who tap into their feminine energy most is, I would say, artists. I would say artists. Artists are some of the most spiritual and sensitive people that you'll ever meet. I would say artists. Most men that I would say who kind of like are okay with tapping into that without any judgment on themselves, even if they don't call it that, I would say artists tend to do that more than anybody else. So yes, Ray, that's exactly what I'm saying. Are you saying that men have a feminine nature inside of us? I am saying that all of us have feminine and masculine energy. You are the ultimate manifestation of the masculine, and I am, woman, the ultimate manifestation of the feminine. It is not meant for women to be dominated by their masculine side, and it is not meant for men to be dominated by their feminine side. I'm just saying that. Somebody might not like it because the LGBTQ community might beg to differ. Right? And I still do not have all the answers, but that is the conclusion that I've come to. So to answer your question, yes. Yes, it doesn't mean that you're dominated by it. And y'all know men who function heavy in that. And let me just say this, not all men who do are necessarily gay. Can I say that? Because I know when I was in church, it took me a minute because of where I'm from, right? And I had to understand that there are just effeminate men. Like sometimes there are men who was just raised by women. A lot of the men in the church and stuff was raised by their grandmothers, their mothers, their aunties, and so they take on the expression, the feminine expressions that those women have, but they're very much heterosexual men, right? So you'll see their mannerisms can be kind of like womanish, but they're very much heterosexual. So I'm not necessarily saying that it doesn't make you gay. So what I would say, Ray, if you don't feel like that, I would say study the masculine and feminine principles and energies. And like I said, you guys already pinpointed. Y'all say what men are logical. Y'all say men bring structure, men bring order. Women tend to be more chaotic. Like there are different like qualities, or expressions of both that shows up in us. Okay, in both men and women. So I'm not sure, like this idea that the feminine principle only shows up in the woman and we're the only one that possesses it is crazy, because it's all throughout nature. Aren't we a part of nature? Why? I don't know why we would think we would be excluded from that, but okay. The dichotomy of God and goddess was first displayed in Africa. You can't have one without absolutely. There's someone, Dante, who said it? Uh, a guy, I was watching an interview and he said that, he says all male African gods had wives. He's like, do the research. Every single one of them. Balance. Hey, Ene. Good to see you, sis. Dante said that isn't revenge. No, I know. And Dante, that's why I said, like, I know that, I know that my thinking, my, worldview, I know that I'm not in the majority. I'm aware of it. I am a Black woman in America. Majority of Black people are Christian. And if they're not, they subscribe to at least one of the Abrahamic religions, right? And the Abrahamic religions are the ones that push that. And even those of us who don't subscribe to it today, we still have the residue of it on us. So most of the Abrahamic religion says that women come from man, and also that men are superior to women, right? And men are the head of women. So I know that I'm not in the majority. I'm very aware of that, right? It does nothing to my life. Okay. Me having this mindset, or me having this perception of how the male female dynamic should work, doesn't affect, like, I know some people is like, oh, she probably walks all over her husband or something like that. Far from the truth. Far from the truth. I value this man's opinion. I value his input. I do not make decisions without him, outside of him. Okay? When I have an issue that I know, if it's something with the car, is, and I'm like, no, go cut the grass because I ain't doing it. It doesn't make me feel like, because I don't see him as my head, that means that I don't respect him. And that's what I think a lot of people go wrong. We have to be willing to envision a different way. A lot of us are really stuck. We have a very binary way of thinking. For example, because I don't think of that men are the head, guess what the only other option available to me is? That I'm a feminist. So it's this either or. No other reality can exist outside of the binary ones that we subscribe to. So if I am not for men being the head, and I am not for supporting and perpetuating patriarchy, then I must be a feminist. You know how much in between there is? And forget just in between. You know how many other shit exists outside of that way of thinking? You know how much stuff that's out there that's unknown? You know how much we got to learn about ourselves and our function and how our bodies function? and how our brains function and how human, like, we have so much to learn about ourselves to think that we've already gotten it all figured out and to be so close-minded. So for me, when I enter into a space with men, I don't look at men as there's a respect I have for men. I respect what men bring to the table because there are things that men bring that I cannot bring. There's ways of thinking that men have that I do not have. There are ways that men problem solve that I don't even consider. So I respect you and value you for your function, not for your genitalia. Not because you was born with a ding-a-ling. Has nothing to do with that. In fact, it allows me to humanize you. It allows me to see a person and not a thing, not a machine, not a utility. I refuse to partner with patriarchy in the demise of our men. I refuse to do it. I refuse to partner with patriarchy in the enslavement of the minds of our men, where they don't have full access to their emotions because it just isn't manly to do so. And so therefore I am going to suppress it because we what do we say? We say emotions is what? A feminine thing. And yet you have them, sir. So what does that mean? That what? That what? Where does that come from? Where does the emotional part of you come from? That's the feminine there too. Right? But you have to suppress that. You can't show that because it goes against everything that patriarchy told you manhood is. And for black men, if I was you, I would be careful of the template of manhood that I'm using. Your ancestors did not view women in that way. They didn't view women. I'm talking about your ancestors before colonialism. The feminine was not viewed in that way. The feminine was not devalued in that way. But you guys see manhood, and your manhood is defined by the person who is in power. And so because that person is in power, you think that, you know what, if I do it the way that they're doing it and they say should be done, then I'm going to have access to that same power. And do y'all see it doesn't have the same results? Because what patriarchy also says that y'all don't talk about is that for men to dominate, they must have access to resource and power. They must have access to resources and power. That doesn't translate well. And it shouldn't, and we shouldn't want to. Our men should not desire that. Your ancestors did not look at women that way. Okay, Ray says perhaps they have to tap into it, but it definitely isn't natural or comfortable to do. Ray, I agree. I have so many stories. Like, Ray, let me tell you something if you're still here. One time, right? Like the first time a guy ever cried in front of me, it was the most uncomfortable. I'm talking about a grown man. A grown man. It was the most uncomfortable thing for me. Because I just want to put it this way. My sister Ma'at, when I was talking to her, she had asked a question that I think was a valid question. She was saying that well, why would women want to be dominated and subjugated to men in this manner? And I was telling her because we are reared into that way of thinking. We're programmed, like from the womb to the tomb, we are programmed into thinking that way of women as women. Think about the educational system. K to 12. What is that two words? It's two words doing what? To maintain and to perpetuate the current system, even if it's unjust to people that look like us. That is what programming is. Education is programming. So it's just, I gave her the example of, it's just like when slavery, during the times of, enslavement, right, of African people, um, there were children who were being born into slavery, right? They didn't know anything else. They literally was born into enslavement. So they actually believed that that was their fate. Like they were meant to be slaves. Why would a child or a young adult think, oh, I'm a slave? It's supposed to be that way because they were born into it. Everything around them informs them that that is true. It's the same thing with women. Everything around us under the system of patriarchy tells us that men are superior to us. So yes, a lot of us just go ahead and we subscribe to it. We don't do any research. We do not think for ourselves. We don't even pay attention to like the stuff that's just straight up common sense. And then also too, when you deal with extreme feminists, right? That's the other side of it, where these are women who they want power. They want to take over, right? They want women to be superior to men. I don't even subscribe to that. That is not balance. Okay? They want a world without men. And I'm saying y'all can have that world without men. I'm good over here. I don't want a world without men. I don't want a world without women. I want us to figure this shit out and stop trying to, control and dominate each other. And stop trying to prove who is better at this and who's stronger. Just acknowledge that, like, she bring this to the table. She's strong at this. She's dope at this. What? We're going to go with that. You're going to take the lead on that. Oh, wow. He good at this. This is what he does. Like, he does this better than me. Fine. Just like I said, when it comes to stuff with my son, I could only go but so far. Sometimes I got to tap into my husband's wisdom. I have to literally go to him and be like, yo, what do you think about this? Because a male perspective is necessary in that instance. Okay? So yes, Ray, I agree. It's not easy, but it is very possible. Okay. Dante says femininity is no longer applauded. Yeah. Now that's a big one, especially in the Black community, because a lot of our women have been kind of like forced into, and when I say forced, I don't mean, because I think that a lot of these men, when they talk about this, they really need to be honest. And I feel like it's a lot of dishonest conversations that happen around Black women's masculinity or masculine ways. The way the conversation happens is almost like trying to say that Black women are literally wanting to be men. And that is not the case. That is not the case. It's just not. Okay. I was telling someone that this thing that we keep calling a gender war is not a gender war. It's a power struggle. People are fighting for power. It's a scarcity and lack mindset, by the way. It's not enough for everyone to go around. So we need to destroy each other. May the best man or woman win. It's not a gender war. It's a power struggle. It's a fight for power. And the sad part with Black men and Black women is y'all are fighting for the bottom of the top of the bottom. Because you guys think that if you perform well, if you acquire things that they say you should acquire, that somehow they're going to share the power with you. And that's not true. That's what disheartens me about us. Instead of fighting the thing or the system that oppresses all of us, by the way, all of us, we turn our guns on each other. We separate each other. We're imploding. We're dividing amongst ourselves. That's what's sad to me as it pertains to Black men and Black women. Okay. So yes, femininity, when it comes to that, a lot of our women, Queen Afua talks a lot about this, a lot. Before there was Kevin Samuels talking about this, Dr. Phil Valentine. If you look up some of his lectures around, like he has I've been trying to get this book. I got my eye on his book, The Wounded Womb. he got a lot of backlash from black women because they felt like he couldn't speak on that because he was a man. But he was speaking about the masculinity and the masculine nature that black women have taken on, right? But the difference between for me personally, Kevin Samuels and it's no slight to him and like a Dr. Phil Valentine is that Dr. Phil Valentine breaks it down. He gets into the metaphysical of it, right? He gets in. He talks about what the environment does to create that, right? What women have to become in order to survive in this system. What does that look like? Okay. So when we talk about women's masculinity and even lack of femininity, however we want to put it, we can't extract it out of its proper context. We can't have the conversation about their behavior in isolation. We just can't do that because it's dishonest. Because then it becomes a thing. It's like people talking about a lot of residue from slavery that black people are still dealing with and Jim Crow. And people talk about it. If you talk about it outside of its historical context, then you create a situation where you're actually implying that a lot of the behavior is just innate to us because of our blackness. It's the same thing with black women. When you take who black women have become today out of its historical context, you then you start to push the narrative that that's just innately how black women are, and that's not true, and I don't like it. I don't like the way we talk about it, but I agree with you, Dante. Femininity is no longer applauded. I agree with you. um let's see. When it comes to defending, you must be aggressive with everything you have. I agree, but it's funny, like men can see that in us, but they don't understand that when they have to be soft, to their girl child or whatever, that they have to, that requires them to function in that feminine energy, even if it's for a brief moment. We are in and out of those energies throughout the day. It just is. When a man envisions something, that is him operating in his feminine energy, right? The subconscious mind, like, dreaming, visions. That's when you have to go now to be practical and actualize that, there you are in your in your masculine again. Because masculine is about action. Masculine is active. Feminine is inactive, right? When you look up the qualities, I mean, the principles, as far as the energies are concerned. So when I say that, it's not to say, oh, men or women. That's not what I'm saying. You have to understand how nature operates as far as the masculine and feminine to really understand where I'm going, what I'm saying when I say that. Okay. It's not to come at the brothers and be like, you guys are CCs. Not at all. Okay. Bree said, yes, Bree. Yes. And I was like, I used to see them boys in there. I'd be like, yo, why is his mannerism like that? So I was there too, sis. I was. And you said when fathers do their daughter's hair, don't they be gentle with their hair? So, oh, absolutely. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. And then even men who don't have children in ya. Like once, for me, my advice to men would be, if you want to talk about masculinity and femininity, actually study it. Right? Study it. And then you are going to see that you actually have that energy in you as well. So, Enya, that's a good example. And I hate that it actually has to come to father-daughter dynamic to be able to push that point, because I think it even exists outside of that. But that is a good point as well. Okay. Hey, Quantum, you're back. I told him you was going to come back. John Hendrik Clark. Yes. Shout out to John Hendrik Clark. Yeah. Okay. So let me go through. Ray, Ray says they usually have more than one wife. Don't forget that part. Yeah. I won't forget that part, Ray. And by the way, Ray, I have my own views around monogamy. I just do. I am not one that believes that everyone is supposed to be monogamous. I think that is ridiculous. And I actually still think that that's rooted in some other stuff as well. I do not subscribe to that thinking. I think that monogamy is a discipline. I think it is a discipline. And I'm just being honest about that. Okay. Quantum said the gods have goddesses. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, let me run through these. Ain't no man head of me who can't be head of himself. And you know, Quantum, you said something earlier in the live before you like came in and then you left out that men are having a having a difficult time heading themselves, and then want to have conversations about heading women. And so I definitely agree with that as well. But here's what, and I'll even go to the other side of it. Women are busy trying to understand the nature of men. They're studying men. They're trying to figure out what to do to get men, and they're neglecting knowledge of their own nature. A lot of us women, we have no clue who we are. None. None. And that's why I can say a lot of us subscribe to the idea that men are supposed to be the head. And by the way, before I close out, I'm going to say some stuff here with this man that is the head shit that a lot of men in this space exactly are not, especially are not seeing. You cannot tell women that men are created to lead and be the head, and then ask them to help you lead. That's why you guys look silly to these women. The accountability conversation around women is also rooted in this idea that men are the head, by the way. This is why I could hold women accountable and be like, nah, because I do not look at men like that. Oh, the kingdom is collapsing. Oh my, it must be the men's fault. Because why? Men are heads. Men are the leaders. And the women just sit back and don't take accountability for the fact that they help destroy the kingdom as well. I can't get with that, y'all. I can't. I just cannot. This is why women are always going to hide behind that. These women that lack accountability are going to always hide behind, well, aren't you the head? Aren't you the leader? Aren't you supposed to lead? They're going to always, that's always going to be their escape route. Always. But when you take that off the table, let me tell y'all something. You take that off the table where you no longer see it that way, you are able to see woman lack of accountability for what it is. And I see it clearly. I told you guys the last time, it shows up in me sometimes. I still have residual stuff because of our socialization and how we're raised. We are very entitled. We're pampered and entitled. And it's very rare that those things are challenged in us, especially not from our fellow women. When I take that off the table, that men are meant to lead, and I start to take responsibility for my own life, and I start to approach men, not necessarily as my equal, but my compliments, that they compensate for where I can, for things that I fall off on, and I compensate for where they fall off oftentimes. And by the way, that dynamic don't just exist in marriages. You put a bunch of men and women out there in nature, it's going to naturally flow that way. I can promise you that. So that's why I can't argue against that. Right? Men, we appreciate your big muscles. Yes, we do. We love them. We love you. We love your big muscles, men. We do. But they were not given to you to dominate us. They were given to you to protect us. This is how you continue your lineage. That soil that you need to plant your seed in must be protected, not destroyed and demeaned and devalued. We love your big muscles. Yes, we do. You better keep those muscles up. We love them. But they weren't given to you to dominate us. And that's really my point. Okay? So, Quantum, I'm going to keep going. She said, people get twisted. Just because a woman has a strong demeanor doesn't mean she doesn't respect, honor, and uphold her duties to her man. Absolutely. Absolutely. I agree with that. Inya says, to me, it seems like they want nuns. No, I don't think men want nuns. I think men want women who want men. I think men want women who can acknowledge that they are women and show up as women. I don't think they want nuns. I don't necessarily think so. Honestly, I don't think so. All right. I find that a lot of so-called men are just boys and they are their own issue. Ooh, y'all are going in on the men. Don't come for the brothers too hard. You know, we still love and respect them. And like I said, this is about equilibrium. Say that again. It's the function. Oh, Black Man Unfiltered. Hey, how are you, sir? Good to see you. Thanks for passing through. I am not dropping the link today. I drop the link on Fridays. So but if you have something to say, you can say it in the comments and I could talk. I can address it because I am not dropping the link today. But I definitely have open panel on Fridays and I'm trying to keep it that way. Quantum says men want submission but don't know that it's something that comes with trust. If you trust, you should. What? If she trusts you, she'll be your biggest cheerleader. I think, and that's the thing. I think that in our relationships, I think even the friction that we're seeing is that we don't have trust for each other. Like when I hear the conversations online in this space, I keep saying we're having these honest conversations, right? A lot of the men are coming into the conversation with their own vitriol towards Black women. And it's not the Black women who are in the conversation with them. It's Black women who have done damage to them already in their lives. The same way that Black women are entering the conversations. It's not necessarily that they have an issue with the men that they're conversing with. They have an issue with the Black men in their life who has done them damage. And so now you have these two people having issues, right? And they're coming into the conversation with generalities and just generalizations, right? And now we expect them to come together and do what? And do what? Because it's just going to be a bunch of triggering back and forth, back and forth. So I think we do have to have honest conversations if we're going to evolve the conversations. It has to be done in honesty. Yeah. I don't like Black men because I'm talking about Black women who don't like Black men. When you come in the conversation, how you enter the conversation matters. I don't like Black men because I don't know. All the men in my family treated me like trash. I was molested by my uncle, whatever that is, you know. But being able to be honest about that. All the Black men coming in and is like, you know, my mother wasn't shit. You know what I'm saying? My mother abandoned me, you know, or my father, whatever that was. And I'm just pissed at all Black people right now. And just being able to know whether or not you can have a healthy conversation. The issue is that everybody just wants to talk. That's a part of the issue too. Like you have to be able, there's so many conversations that happen across YouTube that I just do not engage in. I just don't. Because I know it's going to become a back and forth, it's going to become a debate, and I'm so past that. Like, it's nothing that you can say to me to tell me that woman come from the rib of man. It's not like there's nothing because you have no point of reference outside the Bible. You have no other point of reference. There's nothing in science, in history that backs that shit up. So why would I jump into a conversation with a bunch of people who are rooted in Christian dogma to have that conversation? And I don't even subscribe to their sacred text. I don't even subscribe to their way of thinking. I don't even see myself within the context, you know what I'm saying, of their religion. Like, I just don't. So why would I jump into a conversation to do what? To debate? I'm not doing that. And I think more of us need to be able to do that. If there's a conversation, evaluate yourself. If you don't have anything constructive to add to the conversation, if it's just going to become an argument, if you're not willing to build or evolve the conversation, just sit it out and just listen to the conversation. But like I said in my, Friday? When I listed my things of why Black women and Black men can't have healthy conversations, they need to be right and they need to fight are the main two. We get a thrill out of fighting and going back and forth. That friction does something to us. It makes us feel alive. So there are certain spaces I can listen and I might be like, nah, And there's no one person that I agree with 100%, and there's no one person I disagree with 100%. So I might listen and I'm like, yeah, yeah, yep, yep. And then there are other points I'm like, you're never going to convince me that Eve came from Adam's ribs. Lord, I was there before. I had the belief system. Like I said, that's one of the, if I was to pick something from Christianity that I am embarrassed that I even believed, it would be that. That's it. I can't even believe that I believe that. Because there is no evidence of that outside of the Bible. Everything points to we all come from woman and man, by the way, because man contributes to that. Because without the sperm, it ain't happening. Okay? But we all come from the womb of a woman. Nothing in history and science is saying, no. Yesterday, a woman was actually taken out of the rib of a man. This just happened. No. And that's why I don't like certain conversations I'm not willing to even engage in. Okay, so she says correct, especially public school. Let me see what else. Oh boy, who else? Oh, Bree. Yes, feminazis. Yeah, it's the thing. And here's the thing I tell people about this space here and me. I have no obsession or desire for the male gaze. I am not here to be wifed. I am a wife already. Right? I am not here to conform so that I can get the applause and the accolades from men. So when I show up, I can show up and I can have my own little space and I can speak whatever I need to speak and I can go about my business. I have no agenda towards the men. There's no manipulation necessary. I don't need to do none of that. So being called a feminazi or risking being called a feminazi doesn't do anything for me, right? There's such a freedom, and this is no slight to Christians. Like there's such a freedom outside of that ridiculous dogmatic way of thinking, right? To where like when you approach people, you approach them as people, not souls to be won over, not people that are that could be possible converts, but just as people that you can relate to, that you can learn from, that you can deposit, and that you can receive deposits from. They're not a mission. It's such a freedom. The pretentiousness goes out the window. You know what I'm saying? This is why most of us who are in those Abrahamic religions, our closest friends are people who are also subscribed to them. Because it's hard for us when we are in those way of thinking to be genuine friends with people who we think are going to hell. All right. So, Quantum, I don't either off with feminist heads too. Exactly. I'm a black woman. I'm a black woman that that tries her best to be very African centered in my thinking. I am not a feminist. I do not subscribe to feminism. I do not. Okay. I'm a thinker, I'm a reader, I'm an observer. And I'm forever a student. So somebody could come and teach me something and then it'll be like, oh, I never thought of it that way. Wow. Okay, that gives me something to think about. I might read something in a book and it's like, oh, never thought of that perspective, but yeah, no, off with the feminist heads as well, because listen, feminists, like those extreme feminists, they're also anti-nature. You're also anti-nature. When you start trying to exclude men, me and you gonna have a problem. When you try to push men out of the equation, we're gonna always have an issue. This is where you and I will part ways. Right? This is where you and I will part ways. Me and you, we can agree. We could be like, yeah, I don't see men as the head. And then you come out, yeah, people say men are the leaders. And we could agree on so much of that. But the minute you start talking about excluding men and getting rid of men, we have to part ways, sis. I can no longer journey. I can journey no further with you. And it's the same thing with men. There's a lot of men who I agree with. when they talk about certain things with women, specifically around accountability. But when you start talking superiority, this is where we hit the fork in the road. This is where we're going to hit the fork in the road. And people can't handle that. People cannot handle you seeing one thing different from them. There's this one thing wrong, so we have to cancel out the whole thing. And half of y'all been cutting off the bad side of the bread all your childhood. Now all of a sudden you want to act brand new. Oh, the whole thing is now one thing makes the whole thing bad. You've been chopping off that stale part of that bread your whole childhood. Now you want to come with this foolishness. Okay, I'm gonna let y'all have that. Okay. She says it's called redefining femininity. Yep. Let me see what else. Quantum. Yeah, she says Dr. Phil Valentine helped me so much back in the day. Bobby Hemmett too. Yeah, the elders of knowledge. I agree. And also too, like I said, before there was a Kevin Samuels, like Phil Valentine's was talking the things, right? And Black woman still was giving him push back then, but he was talking to them on a level of like health, and spirituality, and telling them that they're destroying and attacking their own wombs when they are trying to show up as men. So that teaching is not new. It's new to some people. It's new to people who are not in the metaphysical space and and don't listen to certain people. It's new to people who don't listen to people who think outside of their paradigm. Let me just leave that there. I'm gonna just leave that right there. All right, so my aunt said Dr. Phil Valentine is a metaphysician and has thoroughly studied the body, both men and women, holistically. Big difference. I agree, my aunt. I agree completely. So that's why I say he comes from a different perspective. He is not literally trying to demean and attack women. He's actually trying to save their lives and their wombs. He's like, ma'am, like, sis, we need y'all. We need y'all to be, healthy. So let's not do this. Right? So yeah, I agree with that. There is a difference. Right, the subconscious, aka Eve, is feminine in all of us. Let me see. She said, what? You don't say. You're right. Once we peep that you're goofy, it's over. Yo. Bree, listen. Once they lock into like, yo, this sister is not on our wavelength. She's not thinking the way that we think she should think as a woman. I'm aware of that. But here's the thing. It doesn't bother me. Like, my husband loves me and I love him. And we got a good thing going and nobody feels the need to dominate the other person and be superior to the other person. And it works just fine. And I know many other relationships that work like that. Most African-centered men that I know don't operate in that ridiculousness. Most of them. Majority of them. That mess is rooted in those Abrahamic religions. These men who are disempowered are trying to find a way how to feel powerful again. And what's the easiest target? Whatever we perceive as weaker, smaller, less strong. And the funny thing is that you don't have to dominate your woman to walk with her. You don't. You don't even have to be superior. You've been lied to. I'm sorry. Now I'm a little annoyed. You've been lied to. And I know you've been programmed that way. We all have throughout our entire childhood. I'm a woman and I'm telling you, I've received the same programming to where I once saw men in that way and I do not anymore. I love men. I respect them. I respect them for everything they bring that I cannot. And I can do that without seeing them as superior to me. Do you guys see how that works? Everything is not black and white. There's so much nuance in this world. So much gray. But the foundation of a lot of these belief systems is that woman came from the rib of a man. You know how childish that thinking? I'm sorry, y'all. That ish is childish. Like, go ask a child that. Go ask a child where women come from and man. Go ask them. Any of y'all have younger children? Go ask them right now. There will be no mention of a rib. Yes, Ashan, you know how I feel about that. Anyway, let me keep going. All right. She says, if they have a personal issue with someone in their lives, why say that you're trying to help the community when they are speaking from hurt and bitterness? This is for both. Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's not that they're trying to help the community. A lot of these people are literally trying to release. They are seeking help, and they think entering into these spaces and doing whatever they do, that's going to help them, is going to help them be heard, right? Because let's be honest, a lot of us, we've been muzzled our entire childhood. We could not say shit, and we were treated like crap, and we was talked over, and we were dominated by the bigger people. You see how that works? You see how that works? Do y'all see how that patriarchal, Christian, Abrahamic, religious, dogmatic way of thinking trickles over into how we treat each other, and then also how we treat our children? Do you guys see the connection? Do you guys see how that's all connected? But we want to talk about these things in isolation, and they're not happening in isolation. They're very much connected. There could be no racism without separation and othering. Without that, racism cannot exist. And that is what patriarchy does. It separates men and women. It says that they're not one simply because they're different. There's no way they could be one. And that's very European. The European dissects and analyzes everything and compartmentalizes everything. So patriarchy says that, right? So there's an othering that happens first. Racism can't exist without that. It can't. It can't. So my ad say facts, we gravitate to toxicity as it feels natural to us. Oh, we love toxicity. Oh my God. Yo, my ad, look, even sometimes I just struggle with my own toxicity. Trust me. It's something that we have to be able to recognize in ourselves. Because, and you know, here's how you recognize it in yourself. What you gravitate to is your mirror. What you're attracted to is your mirror. That is your mirror. That is how you address it in yourself. That's how you know it's there. What you're drawn to, it's your mirror. And a lot of us don't want to own that because we've been done really bad by people, and we just don't want to see or even embrace the idea or the thought that somehow I am like that person. That's why I attracted them. Because we see them as demons because they've done us so bad. It's like, nope, 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 no, no, you do not compare me to that demon. I am nothing like him. But if you take a closer look, yeah, yeah. Inya says, I had to leave a lot of those platforms because I got tired of those conversations. I mean, where's the growth after all this? And you know, a lot of the conversations are very secular, like circular conversations, because one of the things I had to learn is that just from observation, we don't like a lot of people, you gotta be careful. It's like it's not necessarily about communities, about content. And you have to be able to make that differentiation for yourself. Now, there's certain platforms that I will go to. If I'm invited, even if I'm not invited and I want to come up, I will go and I'll come up because I've already, this is the word in the YouTube street, vetted. I've already vetted the platform, and I've determined that it is a safe enough space for me to enter into and talk the way that I do, right? So I personally believe that, like for me personally, if it's just a circular conversation and it's not going anywhere, and even when it gets close to a solution, somebody throws a wrench in, and creates chaos all over again, because again, the need to fight and the need to be right. We people who function or feed on chaos, peace bothers them. So the minute there's a sign of peace, they are going to create chaos again. And I've seen that in a lot of the spaces, and I can't. I can't. And also, I'm of a certain age group too. Like, also the age group as well. Like, it's like, no, we're not doing that. I got two black sons that I have to raise. And I have to make sure that my energy and my frequency is not jacked up, right? So yeah, I agree with you on that one. In yeah, very circular conversations. It's exhausting after a while too. So I get it. Dante, um, Hanifa, you have to understand, most people don't understand what they read, and the Bible was constructed and manipulated over 2,000 years. Yeah, I agree. And a part of what I'm saying too is that the system of patriarchy, or what we know patriarchy as, or the idea that men are superior to women and therefore meant to dominate them because women are the weaker, whatever that is, that didn't start with Christianity. It didn't. It existed before. And that's why I said I feel like it was written into the Bible for that reason. Patriarchy is not a Christian creation. It's not. The system as we know it, it's just not. So I'm not gonna put that on Christianity. Okay. I'm not doing that. But I do agree with you that, and I'm telling you, like, now when I go back and I read the Bible, oh my God, it is so different. The experience is so different, like so different, right? I do not. I approach it almost like an incomplete history book. So there are certain part, like for example, like there's I don't know if you guys know Credo Mutwa. He's a South African what do you call them? Sangoma. And he talks about like the history of where so the African people come from, right? And so like the Dogon people and stuff. And so he talks about them coming from the stars, right? And he talks the way he's telling the story, he's telling it like saying, like, they came and they taught men how to do this, how to do that. And you know what's so funny? If I was still a Christian, you know what I would say? I would be like, oh my gosh, he's delusional and all of this type of stuff. But you know what came to my mind when he was reading it? The book of Enoch, which is not a part of the 66 canonized books of the Bible. The book of Enoch, you can read it, but it's not a part of the canonized Bible, right? But what he was talking about, I had already been exposed to through the book of Enoch, because the book of Enoch calls them fallen angels. And it goes in to tell you what those fallen angels taught women, how to make jewelry, the earrings, the eyeliner, all of these things. That's in the book of Enoch. So when Credo was talking about it, I was like, I know this story, right? I know this story. And it was actually the book. So that's what I'm saying. Like, and by the way, when you go to so many other cultures and you study other cultures, they have very, very similar stories as far as where they come from, their origins, creation, and so forth, right? And a lot of it has to do with like other world, like other planets, like they came from other planets. This is not just Africans. Like most cultures have their own origin stories. Okay. And so now when I approach the Bible, it's like, okay, I dip in and out of it. I go into it almost like I go into any other book on my bookshelf, to be honest. Dante said it was established how we know it today based on how it was understood, if at all. Yep. Hi, sis. She says, we're trying to be her, but all the song isn't helping us get prepared. I agree. I agree. I agree with that one. I agree with that one. And also too, like, I mean, the fact that we are struggling to, I don't know, just to work with each other, because even sometimes in this space, and I'm glad you brought that up, like sometimes I'd be like, to what end though? You know what I'm saying? And that's why, like, that's partially why I don't like talk about like celebrity stuff, because I know the minute something happens with celebrity, like everybody, it's kind of like what's trending. You know what I'm saying? So let me jump on that. Let me talk about that. But yeah, because I agree with you, sis, because a part of me be like, look, I was just telling my friend the other day, when y'all see me disappear, don't come looking for me. Because I know that feeling. I know exactly what that is. You know what I mean? But the fighting amongst each other, no. And in order for me to get along with men, I don't need to see them as my head. In order for me to love and respect them, I don't need to see them as my head. And I don't believe in the story of a woman comes from the rib of man. And that's really the foundation outside of other scriptures and sacred texts. That's really the foundation, is that man created, God created man, and then God got woman from the rib of man. And Lord have mercy. The fact I'm even getting nauseated saying it. But anyway, so guys, if you have anything else for me, um, let me know. But if not, I am going to get ready to close out. You guys know Mondays is really about my personal stories, my personal journeys. But on Friday is Open Final Friday. So anyone can feel free to come up. I always drop the link throughout the broadcast so you guys can come up and have the conversation. But um, on Mondays, I just really just come and talk about like whatever is pressing on me. I do talk to you guys from the chat, but I try not to do any like panels or anything. Honestly, and I know my aunt is probably like, girl, you done been off for 2 hours. I, Mondays are supposed to be shorter, guys, for me. I'm literally supposed to be on here for an hour on Mondays, but I'm trying. I am. I'm working on it. I'm working on it. And then Fridays are supposed to be my longer lives, but it's not working out, guys. I be trying. Anyway. So anyway, that's pretty much everything in a nutshell that I wanted to come and talk about. My idea of men and women being complementary to each other, not equality but complementarity. And like I said, Marimba Annie focuses on oppositional unity. Oppositional unity, which means that you have two things that are very different, but they cannot function and exist and survive. That's the word, survive without each other. And that's how I feel. That is how I approach relationships. That is how I function in my relationship. I very much need and value my husband and very much, very, very, very much respect him. It has nothing to do with superiority or inferiority or one being valued above the other or better than the other. Okay? If you're so valued as a man, then you are to be able to exist without women. And if you are so valued above a man, then you are to be able to exist without men. And if you exist without men, you fail to continue on the race. Period. That's it, guys. All right. I know the comment sections is probably gonna be with some bull, and that's okay. Hopefully not. Hopefully not. But thank you guys for tuning in today and coming and spending time with me. Hopefully something that I said made someone think. If not, it's okay. I'm not here to convert anyone. My days of converting people have long passed. I am not here to damn anyone to hell. My days of damning people to hell have long passed. I am not here to win you over to my way of thinking. My days of that have long passed. I am just here to share and build in conversation. And until next time, I am going to say peace and blessings and see you guys on Friday at 5 p.m.